Hi, my name is Brad Young, and welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. Today's episode 11, Health Habits Made Simple. So when we look at, our health habits, we can make them their superpower. That's the thing about it. You can make your health habits your superpower. And it's all simple. The thing of it is, when we step back and look at it, health habits can be your superpower if you decide to make them that way. It just takes small, consistent action. And so, like in all the other podcasts, there'll be a link for practical application where you can go. There's going to be a sheet where you can fill out some things, read a little bit more about the episode, because, I always want to make sure this information is available for practical application. But when we look at this, we all face challenges. We decide how we respond. We step back and you want to build habits that fuel growth and positivity, not just change routines just to change them. You want to become unstoppable. And so, we have to make a step towards resilience, strength, and success going forward. These are simple habits. So as we look at it, the main thing is building consistency. If you're consistent in your diet, you're consistent in your mental training, writing everything down, doing the things that, it's going to get you to that peak performance level that we've already spoke about in the previous podcast. If you're committed to that, now here's some simple ways to be able to do this, to boost your energy, to elevate your nutrition, and just be more consistent and make it more, more your life. Because that's the thing about it. I'm about simplifying things. So if we can simplify these simple habits and create them, it can become a superpower, because people are so inconsistent, it's unbelievable. But, when we look at, why health habits matter. All right. Statistics, show that the importance of health habits. One thing is regular exercise reduces the risk of chronic diseases by 40 to 50%. That's a lot. So if you knew that just by exercising you could reduce chronic diseases by 30 to 40, 50%, you do it. So if you think about it, people say, oh, okay, but I work. Yeah. You may physically work some, but that's still not the same as exercising. You're burning calories and you're working, but it may be specific to what you're doing. There's definitely a lot of other ways to exercise, but physical labor counts. But at the end of the day, you still need to be running. We still need to be, getting these foundational physical habits together. Eating a balanced diet can increase your life expectancy up to 10 years. I'd look at that one twice, 10 years. So you get to live 10 years longer just by eating a balanced diet, not going through the drive-through every day. Unbelievable. We have over 40% of the people in the United States are obese at this point, and it's getting worse. They're dying at an unprecedented rate from diseases and conditions related from eating the junk they put in their bodies. So that number may go up. It may increase your life expectancy by more than that as more studies are done. Because when we, especially when you start looking at food addiction and sugar addiction, we'll look at in upcoming episodes. People are really truly addicted to their bad, unhealthy diets. And it's decreasing your life expectancy by at least 10 years, if not more. But, regular physical activity reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes by up to 50%. Getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep is linked to improved memory, mood, and overall immune function. And that's hard to get sometimes. And a lot of people can't sleep. I'm one of them. And, part of it's related to my sleep apnea, which has gotten significantly better. I'm down to mild now. It's a natural thing that I couldn't avoid. It wouldn't matter if I weighed 100 pounds, I'd still have sleep apnea. It has nothing to do with weight or anything of that nature. It's just an unavoidable thing that I've had to, have surgeries on and do all kinds of things to improve over the years. And so getting that adequate sleep, I can promise, is a gigantic game changer. Constant stress management practices can lower your cortisol levels and enhance mental and physical well-being. Obviously avoiding smoking alcohol is going to help your, it's going to help your health. I mean, when we look at, sleep, physical activity, all these things, I mean, another one is hydration. It makes your organs work and function correctly. That keeps your health better. I mean, too many people are dehydrated, your organs can't function, and so if your body gets weak, if you're dehydrated on top of that, it's not gonna help. I mean, it's your organs are gonna suffer. They're gonna have to work harder because they don't have the proper, hydration. So I mean, so basically, as we start looking at this stuff, we need to establish consistent sleep routines. We need to incorporate balanced meals. We need, frequent, regular exercise, and these are things that people should already know. And and something about having that healthy lifestyle. I mean, I know I would have not been as healthy as long as I've been without really focusing on these small things and why having healthy habits matter, because I mean your body can only take so much, and I mean I can just tell, because I mean I'm still very, very physically active, very good mental condition, everything's very strong because I practice these things. And you notice that when you meet people that are like me, that are 47 years old or older, older middle-aged adults, you can tell how they're taking care of themselves, because you meet some people that I used to hang out with and be around and stuff, and I mean, it looks like life just hit them right in the face. And then some of us, we've been able to maintain good physical health over the years, and so those healthy habits matter. And if you want to reach peak performance, you got to start with these basic things. I mean, we got to look at your morning routine. I mean, it sets the tone for the day. I mean, simple habits like drinking water, stretching, practicing gratitude, all these things are going to matter. A data point is that people who stick to morning routines are 43% more likely to achieve their daily goals. So if you get up in the morning, you have a routine, you set goals, and you structure everything, this is you're headed to you're headed to the superpower range, because you're 43% more likely to achieve your daily goals versus just getting up, showering real fast, running out the door, and just hoping you're not late. But a well-structured morning routine can serve, a foundation for a productive, focused, positive day. I mean, you can boost your energy levels and enhance clarity and feel a lot better. I mean, and when I wake up and I don't feel good, it's essential to ice bath or do something to be able to wake up. I mean, to wake up and be able to function. But you can do things like drinking a glass of water to rehydrate your body to start the day off. And I do that every morning. I used to drink coffee, but I don't now. I chew energy gum, a little bit of caffeine in there, and drink water. Water's about the only thing I drink, actually. Got water and coconut water, and take a lot of multivitamins and things like that. But I start off the day drinking water. Spend 5 minutes stretching. Wake up your muscles, wake yourself up, because I mean, I like to do dead hangs and do things like that. To stretch, to get feeling, get moving. Trying to get moving before I start doing very much. Get up, start moving. Do something to move. Write down things that you're grateful for to create a positive outlook. Number one, write down, I'm alive. I woke up this morning. And so when we look at, morning routines, here's some of the people that have had some of the most fantastic morning routines that are in their well-known figures, like Benjamin Franklin. I mean, he had a structured morning routine. He would start every day off with a question: what shall I do for this day? Followed by time and planning for self-reflection. So he would start every day off by, what am I going to do? Basically, he's like, when I say you write it down, that's what he's doing. Oprah Winfrey, she begins her day with 20 minutes of meditation, followed by a workout and a healthy breakfast. See, that is a healthy morning routine. Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Work Week, he incorporates things like journaling, meditation, and mindfulness, and savoring tea into his mornings. Steve Jobs used to begin the day by asking himself, if today were the last day of my life, what I want to do, what I'm about to do today. Now, that's powerful right there. Let's look at that again. If today were the last day of my life, what would I want to do? What I want to do, what I'm about to do today. And most of us can say no. They would say no on that. And so Steve Jobs had, a fantastic outlook here. I mean, if this was my last day, what I want to do, what I'm about to do today. If you wake up and you say no, then you need to make some changes. Steve Jobs loved Apple and everything that he did with, Pixar, etc. But, if it was the last day of his life, he loved it so much. That's what he wanted to do today. Just like I love making podcasts. I like getting up. I like making pie. I like working out. I mean, these things that I enjoy. I like speaking. I like writing. Tony Robbins incorporates a priming ritual that combines breath work, visualization, and gratitude. You got to think these are all mega successful people, and they have a specific morning routine that helps align their day with what they're wanting to do, what they're going to accomplish. So I mean, that's the thing about it is, this is why these healthy practices are simple, but they produce, superpower like results. Now let's look at it here. We're going to streamline our meal planning. So here's another one. Because you got to look at your nutritional foundation, and that leads to performance in the industry and the energy. So if your nutritional outlook for the day, if you set yourself up to perform and have energy, you will. If you set yourself up to not, you won't. But you need to fuel your activities and your mental focus. When you have your nutrition on, your immune system functions against illnesses and infections better. Your mood is enhanced. Your stress is reduced. Your brain health improves. All these things. I mean, nutrition helps in aid in recovery, muscle repair, physical activity or exertion. You got to look at some actionable strategies to be able to get your nutrition right too. Because I mean, if you think about it, you can batch cook. You can use meal delivery kits, or to keep your meals balanced. Batch cooking on weekends. I used to do this all the time. I mean, I would cook everything on a Sunday afternoon. I would cook up, meal prep everything, batch cook everything. I keep similar ingredients, similar things. You move them around. And now, I do things that are similar, but I have some custom food that I have as well. It's called Huel. And, it goes along with my chicken and rice and everything else. It makes it really easy to plan and not have to, think about things too much, because you got to be able to fuel that nutrition. I carry the Huel with me everywhere I go, and it makes a big difference. But, but you just don't want to be overwhelmed. It's like, when I used to travel a lot, I'd swell up from the salt, because I don't have salt when I'm home. So I've worked from home for a very long time, since 2009. And so, the salt, would have effects on me. So I've had to figure out strategies to be able to get around all that salt when people prepare food at restaurants. I had to figure out different strategies to be able to do that and be able to maintain. It's tough, but you got to figure out ways, because even if you travel, you can still figure out ways to have a balanced diet and not, get so much salt in your body and things like that. It's easy to, create a meal plan, a grocery list, and work on it. Use meal prep containers, use versatile ingredients, which I mean, that's the key to it. It's just like me and the chicken and rice and quinoa. I mean, I utilize that all the time, and I'll switch meat sometimes. And, we add vegetables, and I do different things, but, the Huel's ground up vegetables. So I get plenty of vegetables, and greens and reds and everything else. So, there's a lot of things you can look at, but the main thing is, you can use this, again, through simplicity, to make these healthy habits into a superpower. Because, if we look at what we've looked at so far, you looked at why, these habits matter. You looked at the power of your morning routine, and now we've looked at your nutritional meal planning, why it's important. And then we just got to look at, building consistency. When you think about, those hours at the gym and whatnot, I mean, it's being consistent. You can always have short home workouts. And I do a lot of this stuff like this. I mean, I'll do 15, 20-minute routines all the time. I have different ones scheduled for different times of day. I mean, I walk the dog, I do all these things, but you don't have to spend 2 hours at the gym every night or every morning or middle of the day or whatever. Incorporate short workouts or walks into your routine that are consistent, because that's what's, again, the superpower is the consistency. Consistently having the move numbers. I remember we got into a 20,000 steps a day walking competition, or running or / walking, and you don't realize how far that really is until you do it every day for months on end. But small regular movements can improve your overall health and energy levels without requiring a significant amount of time, and it helps your risk of injury, because you're not going to be overtraining, you're not going to be slinging heavy weights and heavy things like that. But you just build a heavy, strong habit of daily activity. Just like sometimes if let's say I don't get a real good workout in, I can still ride my bike, I can still run on my treadmill, I can still come up and get in the sauna, and I can stretch. I can do all these things. I can still go do hangs. I mean, there's all these things I can still do, even if I can't get to the gym. And so there's no excuse. And none of us have it. I mean, there's all kinds of short routines. But, when you look at the data, I mean, studies show that 20 to 30 minutes of moderate physical activity can reduce the risk of heart disease by 40 to 50%. You can maintain consistent exercise routines that are 50% more likely to be able to sustain them when your goals are focused on simplistic goals versus those that focused on high intensity intermediate workouts. So I mean, if you'll stick to it, you're 50% more likely to stick to it if you have consistent routines versus up and downs. It's like yo-yo dieting, up and down dieting. People do it all the time. Yo-yo is not consistent. It's going to create great weight loss, and then it's going to create great weight gain right back, because you're going to gain it right back plus a few. And so, having these consistent routines makes a difference, because you're 50% more likely to stick with it. Regular physical activity can have a 25% improvement in your mental health, and that helps reduce the symptoms like anxiety and depression. And that's, if I get too angry, I'll run. I run until I'm not mad anymore, or I'll go lift weights and work out till I'm not angry anymore. And sometimes it takes a while, but we have to work on these things, But you just have to stay on schedule. You got to set realistic and achievable goals. You got to prepare your workout clothes the night before, or the day, or whatever. You need to find people to work out with, and I mean, and that's what when I see all these people that are wanting trainers, they really just need a workout person. They really don't need a trainer. I mean, because if you're saying you don't want to spend any money on it, I mean, you're just wasting your money getting a cheap trainer. It's not going to help you. And so you got to remember these things, and there's, there is some common barriers. There's some things that people, they say they have lack of time, or, you have decreased motivation or overwhelming goals and things like that. Well, prioritize your schedule and workouts. I mean, this is a simple one. I mean, just prioritize your schedule and your workouts. I mean, add them to your calendar, block them in there. I block out everything on my calendar, and it's there. I know exactly when I'm going to do everything. You block it out and you stick with it, because if it's already there, you stick with it. We got to start with, what's achievable. Focus on activities you enjoy, because if you hate what you're doing, you will not ever stay with it. And I'm going to say that one more time in case you didn't hear. If you hate and dislike what you're doing, you're not going to stay with it. I mean, I know David Goggins says he hates running, but you know what? He runs at 100-mile races. So he may hate it, but he's really good at it. And at some point, there has to be some type of enjoyment in there. But, like me, I hate riding the bike, but I can ride the bike really good, but I hate it. Not a fan of it. So I've got it and I use it, but it's not my preferred thing. But if everything runs out, I ride the bike. But, you got to think about these things. I mean, these are all things. I mean, there's some simple mind shifts. So, I mean, when you think about your mindset shift, you got to track your progress. That's a mindset shift. Track your progress, practice self-talk, you fail today, you know what? Suck it up. You know what? You need to say, you know what? I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm going to add to it, But, look at these actionable ways to do this stuff, though. I mean, you're just setting goals. You're creating support systems. You're looking for small wins. You're learning from any failures. You're being consistent. All these things are simple, but you combine everything together and it's your superpower. And so, I'm going to have a link. It's going to be in the description of the podcast where you can go through, look at the concepts of this podcast. You're going to have some things you can look at yourself to, to understand yourself better. Look at your morning routine. Decide on what you need to do in your morning routine. What these other people are doing. What can you do to help it? How can you improve your meal plan? These are all about self-awareness. Building consistent. How can I be more consistent? How can I overcome barriers? I mean, these are all things that we all face. And once you master them, they are your superpower, because everybody that's consistent, is successful in the long term. It's just maintaining that consistency. But anyway, my name's Brad Young. This has been the Peak Performance Podcast. Thanks and have a great day.
At Arizona State University, we made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.